Closed captioning for Justice and Law Weekly is provided in part by the Clifford Law Offices in support of quality public television for the Chicago area.
I'm Bob Clifford, President of the Chicago Bar Association, and welcome to Justice and Law Weekly. I am honored to welcome Judge Thomas L. Hogan of the Circuit Court of Cook County, Reverend Olivia Johnson, pastor of Generational Blessings Family Worship Center in Chicago Heights, and Assistant State's Attorney Darrell J. Jones of the Community Prosecution Division. All of my guests are members of the Chicago Bar Association's Interfaith Committee, which has launched a pilot program called the Justice Program in Washington Junior High School in Chicago Heights. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you.
You have an exciting program that is exposing young adults, teenagers to the justice system in a way that's very unique. Judge Hogan, could you tell us a little bit about that?
The program that we just finished our first pilot demonstration program at Washington McKinley in Chicago Heights, and we did not embark upon this without doing quite a bit of legwork in trying to come up with a program that we thought might be beneficial to all concerned. We reached out to a lot of different places in the Chicago Bar Association service area and had meetings with a number of ministers like Pastor Johnson and others, and other people who were interested in addressing this issue before we put this program together. And our goal in putting the program together was twofold. We wanted to introduce concepts of restorative justice into the disciplinary process performed in middle schools. And we also wanted to provide those who were in the program with some very fundamental understanding of what goes on in a trial, because we've seen, and I think others have remarked on this, that there's a tremendous lack of understanding in the general public of people under probably 40 years old as to what actually happens in a trial. And most of us get our information about what proceeds in a trial from the media, and with all due respect, the media does not do a very good job of portraying what actually goes on in a trial. So those were our two goals.
Yeah. But you know, this program is really designed to address a chronic, just destructive problem of youth violence in our community. And Pastor, at the risk of being patronizing, our kudos to you for your good work. You're trying to help these young people, and tell us about how you're trying to do that with this group of lawyers that you've been hanging out with. I mean, my God, lawyers, judges, what are you doing with all those kind of people?
Well, I'm hanging out with these judges and lawyers because I understand that it indeed takes a village. And in our area, in the Chicago Heights area, of a population of over 32,000, the crime rate is double, nearly double, the national average. It's 9.86 versus the national average of 5.28.
Right.
So there's a tremendous problem in our community, and these children also don't even know tomorrow where their food is going to come from. So we're looking at a population that I believe education, the lack of education or undereducation breeds poverty. And of course, poverty breeds other problems that lead to crime. And at some point, these are our neighbors, these become our children, they become our relatives, and they grow up, they are the future. So we have to do something. We can sit around and talk about it. I talk at many tables,
yeah,
but we've got to do something about it to change them.
This pilot program in your community, how did you become involved in it, and why did you embrace it? I mean, what do you think the Chicago Bar Association's Interfaith Committee can bring to Chicago Heights that's going to help these members of your congregation?
Knowledge. understanding of the legal system. That was one of the things that was important to me, because many of these children, most, know only of the legal system from their own personal experiences where their dads are incarcerated. 72% of African American children are born to single parents. Many of the fathers are incarcerated. So therefore, that's all they know. And prison and jail is not very bad to them because what they know of it, their parents come home at some time. And what my goal is to prevent these children from taking that same path.
Yeah. You're teaching these children about a peace circle
Yes.
and about peer juries
Yes.
and trial. Well, could you explain to us the peace circle and how you use it?
Absolutely. Basically, a peace circle is relationship building. It's bringing the offender and the offended together, and those others who were affected by whatever the infraction was, and having them to understand, come to an understanding with one another, so you can understand how what you did affected me. Oftentimes when crimes are committed, the offender does not understand the depth or how far it reaches into the lives of those that they hurt. So it brings everyone together, gives them an opportunity to share their hearts and their experiences, and it gives an understanding to that offender that perhaps it wasn't worth doing what they've done.
Right. Thank you, Pastor. Darrell, where does the State's Attorney's Office fit into this?
Well, I'm part of the Community Justice Center on the south side, right on 91st and Cottage Grove. And one of my coworkers, Kathy Bankhead, is a member of the Interfaith Committee, and she told me about the program. And one of the things that we do at the Community Justice Center is reach out to the community, speak at different schools and things of that nature. So it was a natural fit to participate in this program.
This program, this justice program, is an 8-week program that is designed to do what, Judge? I mean, I'm really trying to figure out, I'm trying to be the devil's advocate here with you because I know this is a great thing, but for the skeptics out there, they might say, well, okay, what are we teaching these kids in 8 weeks? I mean, why don't we just throw them all in jail and forget about it?
Well, I mean, the 8-week program is not enough time to provide the kind of information that we should be providing, but it's a start. And what we're trying to...
It's a great start from everything I'm hearing.
Well, and what we're trying to do is provide students with mechanisms by which they can resolve conflicts before these conflicts escalate into violence.
We heard about peace circles. Tell us about the peer juries.
The peer jury is quite simply much like what we're doing right now. It's a directed effort by an adult to allow the students to work out their own discipline problems after a hearing.
With a judge or an adult as a facilitator?
The adult is a facilitator. The students are the, for lack of a better term, prosecution and the decision makers.
Okay.
The facilitator, the adult facilitator, brings witnesses in and out, and the witnesses include people who have been harmed by the act which caused the peer jury to be formed. And the students listen to the presentation by the various people who were involved, get the victim and the person who perpetrated the act to sit at a table, and the person who perpetrates the act says that they're sorry to the victim, so it requires more than a little self-examination on the part of the perpetrator, and then the perpetrator leaves and the students, the peers, decide what kind of punishment will be meted out.
Where does this fit into the prevention or reduction of youth violence?
Well, because it seems pretty fundamental that violence escalates. So a fight in a lunchroom, a verbal altercation in a lunchroom on a Tuesday turns into some sort of physical altercation on Friday, turns into the use of knives and guns to settle the problem, 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks later. We're all familiar with that kind of fact pattern. Our goal is to provide mechanisms which allow these kind of verbal altercations,
Right.
not to escalate into
Sure.
a resolution by way of guns or knives.
Darrell, were you involved in the Washington Junior High program?
Yes.
Could you explain that to our viewers? Because and include in your remarks why it is we're doing it at a junior high versus some other level of age group.
Well, the school was selected before I got involved.
Okay.
But I did go out to Washington, and I participated in the mock trial portion of the
Tell us
the
about
program.
that. What's a mock trial?
Basically, it's a trial for helping the kids figure out how real trials work. What they're used to is what they see on TV, like Judge Mathis and Judge Judy. And this is actually a real courtroom type demonstration. So they had a fact pattern based on a lunchroom fight at a school, and we had a plaintiff's attorney, and we also had a defense attorney. And the whole purpose was to act out the case, just like it would happen in a courtroom. And at the end, the jury would make a decision.
Right.
So when we got involved, we had to start from the very beginning. Some of the kids had never had public speaking experience. And so the first day we actually had to come out and have them practice standing up in front of their peers and say their names and a little bit about themselves. And after a few weeks, after they got comfortable with doing that, we had them start asking questions of each other. And then we started teaching them each step of the trial process.
Sure. Pastor, did you observe this and participate in it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, could you tell us about your involvement?
Absolutely. In terms of piggybacking on what Darrell said in regards to why we have chosen this age group,
Right.
It's because sixth grade is a little young to understand the level of even the academic piece of it, because we are focusing on the legal system. But eighth grade is almost too late, because my experience in working with the community with our church, I have run programs previously, and the seventh graders tend to be the ones who you can capture before it escalates. By the time they're graduating out of eighth grade and going into high school, it's almost too late. There has to be a time, this is the in-between time that we call the tweens time, where it's their decision-making time. They can make positive choices or negative.
So now that you've done this, I'd be curious to know what the students' reactions were to the process and their engagement with it, A, and B, okay, was it successful? Where are we going with this? How are we going to expand it? How are we going to improve it? How are you going to change it?
Oh my, I was waiting for you to get to that point.
I'm here.
I
We're
want
here
to
now.
talk about the children. From the very onset, children that we work with, and any child, what I have found with the inner city or suburban children is that they kind of raise themselves. So when they're invited or sign up for these programs, they develop rapport and relationship with their facilitators. So first of all, it gave them positive role models. So they gained hope, they built up confidence in themselves, their self-esteem improved and increased, they discovered some of their talents. But in regards directly relating to the outcome measurement, there was an instant outcome in that we are prepared to train a staff to actually operate a peace circle and keep it continuing once we're gone. But the principal, who understood and saw the impact immediately, she has begun to implement it already with the eighth graders who participated in our program. And what they have done, one of them, she actually ran a peace circle. She led one yesterday between two students who had conflict. And she sent us the photo. So what it has done is actually given them hope. It has given them another way in regards to how to equip these children to resolve conflict. That's the greatest point. If you want to know the outcome, the children feel like they have some hope, that they have a way out, and that they have a tool that works for them, because they talk, they interact, they're with each other all day long, but they had no tools to figure out, how do I resolve this conflict? And when you look around the peace circle, she sent a photo, and they had everyone has something to put on the table that means something to them. And when they put it around on the table, they have a voice. Once given that voice and they were understood, from what I'm told already, and we just finished up the program about a week ago, it's already taking off and being established in the school as part of their protocol.
It's just in the normal course of events.
In the normal course of business.
And Pastor, are you going to try to expand this to other schools in the area?
Absolutely, can't wait. In the next upcoming month and a half, we're going to another school on the northwest side, and we will be implementing and replicating the same process.
The northwest side of Chicago Heights, or of Chicago?
I'm sorry, northwest side of Chicago.
Okay.
Our goal is universal. We understand that it's one community at a time, but because it's such an easy program to replicate, once it's done, our goal is hopefully that these people, the staff, the students will engage and they will replicate it as Chicago Heights have. And once we leave, it continues. So Chicago Heights has 12 schools. They can actually implement it in their school system now, their district. And now we move to Chicagoland. And once we get to Chicagoland, one school, one principal will hear about it from another, and we'll just keep it going.
Well, you know, and that's a question maybe to all of you, is how do you build some sustainability for this program to make it something that has some enduring impact and value and can expand? I mean, Judge Hogan.
Well, we've talked about that. I mean, our goal was to put to design and produce the program, and now we've met a few times after the program has been completed, and we have some ideas about how we're going to do that. We're going to go back out to Washington McKinley School, and we're going to speak with the students and see what it was or what it is that they'd like to see us do, and see if we can come up with ways to do that. We operate this on a shoestring budget, and so we're feeling our way, but there will be a way in which to make sure that this is sustainable, because if not, then our efforts will be for naught.
Right. Daryl, you're a young guy and you're a busy fella with work and everything, yet you devoted, you did this for a couple months, right? Going back and forth? And
yes.
Why'd you do it? I mean, your boss tell you to do it, or is it something that you believe in?
Well, it's actually part of my work also,
okay.
At the Community Justice Center. But I also want to kind of change the mindset of kids to help do that. With my experience of going to high schools and talking to kids, one in particular, when I was at a high school or elementary school, as a 6th grader, and we were talking about setting goals for yourself and staying out of trouble and not going to jail. And what really changed me is hearing this 6th grader say that sooner or later, everybody goes to jail. And that was the mindset that he had based on his environment and the people that he know. And I just thought programs like this helped to change that mindset. Letting kids know that there's another way to resolve disputes. There's another way to, there are other ways to, set goals for yourself and other ways to operate.
Right, right. Is there a, Judge, was there a fact pattern that's used for this trial?
Yes, we developed a fact pattern, and it was used by all 3 groups when they were resolving the issues stemming from the fact pattern.
And the 3 groups, were the groups all formatted the same, or was one a peace circle, one was a peer jury, and one was a trial?
One was a peace circle, peer jury, trial, right. And they all resolved the same dispute.
Well, that was my,
yeah.
And did they reach the same resolution for the same dispute?
No, they did not, because there's different orientations.
Could you tell us, what was the dispute, if you could give us a capsule of that?
Stemmed from a fight, a verbal and physical altercation in a lunchroom, and between 3 or 4 7th or 8th graders, because we did use the Washington McKinley school as the school that in the fact pattern, so that they'd have some kind of familiarity with what we were talking about. And so the Peace Circle's goal is to bring the combatants together and to have them at the end of the Peace Circle process accept one another's approach, not necessarily like one another, but accept that everyone in that combat had what the reason they were in the combat for, and had them look at the various reasons and make decisions about whether they were good reasons to be in combat.
Right.
The peer jury, as we discussed, I think in the earlier show, or maybe it was this show, There was an apology that was provided by the person who was held to be responsible, and there was some sort of probationary period that person was put on within the school. But for both the peace circle and the peer jury, the disciplinary process did not leave the school. So, and that's why we wanted to show all of these together, because the peace circle, the peer jury can be handled within the school. Once it gets referred to the county prosecutor, wherever this incident occurred, the school loses any kind of control over what happens to the student or students involved. And the students then feel, are put in a position where they feel exceptionally helpless, because they just don't have any understanding of what can happen to them. So we wanted to highlight to administrators and ministers and teachers and to state's attorneys who are handling these kind of matters, how the different approaches can be utilized to achieve a goal that works for us as a society. And we don't claim that this is the be-all, end-all, but we do think that it provides those who are interested in addressing these kind of problems to use it as a template. And that's what we will do. We will continue to replicate it throughout the Chicagoland area. But what we saw leads us to believe that this can be utilized anywhere where there's conflict.
Pastor, when you saw this evolving, where did you see your ministry having a role to play?
What it does, it gives us access to the families in the community and those who desire the spiritual guidance or even more support. We are in relationship with all of those who participated in the program, and as a result, some of their families, their parents came and said, well, I need help with my child beyond this. So we do have families who are now attending, one in particular who has brought one of the participants along with the rest of her family because she's going through some challenges in terms of integrity and her child getting involved in conflict. So it gives us the opportunity to continue, because that is our responsibility. It is absolutely our duty to make the community better. So this gives us the access to the people, and once the program leaves, we're in the community. We're the staple in the community. They can come to us for more help, whether it's for resources or whether it's for empowerment, and we give them both.
Now, at this particular school, have you thought, I take it you view what happened here as a success?
Absolutely.
Have you determined how in this one school they'll take this template that Judge was talking about and use it as a permanent part or potentially a permanent part of the dispute resolution mechanisms within that school? Has there been talk about that by the principal and the teachers, or is this something that they're willing to, you know, next spring you'll find out that there was just a peace circle or a peer jury on a case and you knew nothing about it, and the kids did this on their own? Are they that excited about it?
Absolutely. Our principal of Washington, Mrs. Sutherland, she is very, very impressed with the program. She has seen results and changes in her students, in the way they apply themselves, just in terms of the conflict resolution, the tools that they were equipped with to resolve things peacefully before they get to the legal system, which is the only system they knew. She now has agreed to and has referred us to the assistant principal who handles all the clubs. This will become a Peace Circle club at this school.
So that's terrific.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so now I'm going to be again devil's advocate and say, okay, I've heard all the good stuff, cushy stuff about this deal. What's wrong with it? There's something not working. Where is it failing? How can we make it? What didn't work? What needs to be fixed? What needs to be improved? Is there a better vehicle here?
Well, you know, I think that one thing that should be commented on is the fact that there's going to be a way for others to determine how well this worked, because this was all put on video and will be shown on WYCC.
Right.
So they will see how the Peace Circle worked and how the peer jury worked and how the trial worked, and they'll make up their own minds. And what they'll also see is that the Chief Judge of the Circuit Court of Cook County Timothy Evans, came down and he spoke to the students and in a very, very heartfelt way.
I heard about this. This was last week, right?
And so he told them how important the effort was that they were making. And he really was quite powerful in the way he described his own personal situation in this regard. So I think that whatever, the biggest problem we face is how do we market this on a wider scale? And to do that, we need a lot of people helping us. We need people at the Chicago Public Schools, we need people at suburban districts, we need ministers throughout the Chicago land area, and we have made all kinds of attempts to get all of those people involved, and sometimes they're involved and sometimes they're not. That's really what we need, though. We just need a whole bunch of people who share our passion and want to join with us in making sure that this extends to everyone who could benefit from it.
I think that the Peace Circle Club idea that you're talking about certainly could get some traction.
Oh, absolutely.
You know.
And what I do believe also in terms of piggybacking on what Judge Hogan said, that in regards to the students, what they have found is relationship. They have found people through this program who believe in them. Many of them did not believe in themselves. So if you want to know what difference it made, it gave these children an opportunity to find people who took time out of their professional schedules to come and spend with them, and they still speak of it.
Well, there you go. And that's a great note on which to end. So thank you so very much.
You're welcome.
This has been a discussion of the Justice Program, a pilot program to reduce youth violence. Judge Thomas L. Hogan, Reverend Olivia Johnson, and Darrell Jones, thank you for joining us today. I hope their comments on the Justice Program have inspired and informed you. For more information, call the Chicago Bar Association's Public Affairs Office at 312-554-2012. Until next time, I'm Bob Clifford. Thanks for watching Justice and Law Weekly.
Closed captioning for Justice and Law Weekly is provided in part by the Clifford Law Offices in support of quality public television for the Chicago area.